The world feels solid, predictable. You go to work, you come home, you exist in a space that seems governed by rules. But sometimes the floor just drops out. People walk out of a door or around a corner or into a bar, and they just cease to be. They leave behind questions that have no answers in a void that can never be filled. These are the stories of those who stepped into the unknown and were never seen again. First, we have the case of Brandon Swanson. On May 14, 2008, the 19-year-old was driving home from a party in rural Minnesota. He ended up crashing his car into a ditch. Wasn't hurt, so he called his parents for a ride, told them he was near the town of Lind, and they set out to find him. For the next 47 minutes, Brandon stayed on the phone with his father, trying to guide him to his location. He described seeing lights he thought were from the town, and he was walking toward them. Then, in the middle of the conversation, he suddenly yelled an expletive, and the line went dead. That was the last anyone ever heard from him. When police located his car, they found it wasn't near Lind at all, but 25 miles away, near a town called Porter. The area he was walking through was rugged farmland. It's bisected by the Yellow Medicine River. Extensive searches of the area, including the river, turned up absolutely nothing. No body, no clothing, no phone. He was on the phone with his father, and then he just wasn't. Next, we look at one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century, the disappearance of the Sauter children. On Christmas Eve of 1945, a fire destroyed the Sauter family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia. George and Jenny Sauter escaped with 4 of their 10 children. 5 of the others, Morris, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, were believed to be trapped on the upper floor. Tragically, the ladder that was always kept by the side of the house was missing. 2 of the family's trucks, which George intended to use to climb to the window, mysteriously wouldn't start. The fire department didn't arrive until the next morning, by which time the house was just a smoking crater. The most unsettling part of the story, however, was that in the debris, no remains of the 5 children were ever found. The official explanation was that the fire had been hot enough to completely cremate the bodies. But that seemed impossible to the family. Over the years, strange clues emerged. A telephone repairman noted the lines had been cut, not burned. A woman claimed to have seen the children in a car peering out at the fire as it burned. For the rest of their lives, the Sauters believed their children had been kidnapped, perhaps by the Sicilian mafia in retaliation for George's outspoken criticism of Mussolini. They put up a billboard with the children's pictures that stood for over 40 years. A constant, heartbreaking monument to a loss that was never explained. Then there's the perplexing case of Brian Schaefer. In 2006, Brian was a 27-year-old medical student at Ohio State University. On the night of March 31st, he went out with a friend to celebrate the start of spring break. They ended up at a bar called the Ugly Tuna Saloon, located on the 2nd floor of a commercial building. Security cameras recorded Brian entering the bar around 1:15 a.m. Later, he was seen on camera just outside the entrance, chatting with 2 young women around 2 a.m. before walking back inside. That was the last confirmed sighting of him. The bar had only one public entrance and exit, which was monitored by that same security camera. Investigators reviewed every second of the footage from that night. They saw all of his friends leaving. They saw every other patron leaving. But they never saw Brian Schaefer leave. He wasn't on the footage. He wasn't found in the bar after it closed. The only other exit was a service door that led to a messy construction site, a route considered impassable. It seemed impossible, but the video evidence was clear. Brian Schaefer walked into a bar and simply vanished into thin air. From a bar in Ohio, we go to an airport in Bulgaria. The story of Lars Matank is one that has been dissected frame by frame on the internet. In July 2014, a 28-year-old German man was on vacation with friends in a resort town called Golden Sands. During a fight over a football game, Lars sustained a ruptured eardrum. A doctor advised him not to fly, so his friends flew home without him, while he stayed behind to recover. This is when his behavior became erratic. He called his mother, whispering that he was being followed by 4 men who wanted to kill him. He was paranoid and terrified. He checked into and quickly out of a cheap hotel, then took a taxi to the Varna airport for a new flight. At the airport, he consulted with the airport doctor. Security footage shows what happened next. During the consultation, a man dressed as an airport construction worker entered the office. Lars, for reasons unknown, became completely panicked, jumped up, said, "I don't want to die here," and fled the room, leaving behind his wallet, his phone, and all of his luggage. He ran out of the terminal, across the parking lot, climbed a 10-foot-tall barbed wire fence, and disappeared into a dense sunflower field bordering the airport. Despite extensive searches of the field and the surrounding woods, not a single trace of Lars Mittank has ever been found since he sprinted into that field. Another case that haunts online forums is that of Maura Murray. On February 9, 2004, 21-year-old nursing student packed her car, emailed her professors at UMass Amherst, claiming there was a death in the family, which was untrue, and started driving north. That evening, her car was involved in a minor single-vehicle accident on a rural road in Haverhill, New Hampshire. A local bus driver stopped and asked if she needed help, or if he should call the police. She refused the offer. A few minutes later, police arrived at the scene. The car was locked, and Maura Murray was gone. Her wallet and phone were missing, but most of her belongings, including packed bags, were still inside. A police search of the area found nothing. Sent dogs tracked her trail for about 100 yards down the road before the scent just stopped cold, suggesting she got into another vehicle. But who was driving that vehicle, and why did she leave? The strange preparations for her trip, the lies she told her professors, and her refusal of help all point to a plan. What that plan was, and what went wrong on that dark New Hampshire road, remains a complete mystery. Finally, there's the deeply strange and tragic case of the Yuba County Five. In February 1978, 5 young men from Yuba City, California, all with mild intellectual disabilities or psychiatric conditions, drove to Chico to watch a college basketball game. After the game, they stopped at a convenience store for snacks and then were never seen alive again. The search began immediately, but it was months before any break in the case occurred. Their car was found abandoned on a remote, unpaved mountain road, high in the Sierra Nevada mountains, miles off any logical route back home. The car was in perfect working order and had enough gas to get them back down the mountain. The men were nowhere to be found. 4 months later, a group of motorcyclists discovered a Forest Service trailer about 20 miles from the car. Inside was the emaciated body of one of the men, Ted Weiher. He had apparently lived in the trailer for weeks, surviving on military rations stored there. Had lost nearly 100 pounds and likely starved to death, wrapped in 8 sheets. The most bizarre part was that a locker full of enough dehydrated food to keep all 5 men alive for a year was in the same trailer, untouched. A can opener was on a table, but none of the cans had been opened. Later that summer, the partial remains of 3 of the other men were found scattered in the woods between the car and the trailer. The 5th man, Gary Mathias, has never been found. No one knows why they drove up that mountain road, why they abandoned a perfectly good car, or why Ted Weiher starved to death in a trailer full of food. These stories linger because they defy explanation. They represent a fundamental fear that the world we know can be peeled back at any moment, revealing an abyss. These people weren't just lost, they were erased from the narrative of their own lives, and the silence they left behind is louder than any answer. The world is full of these unsettling stories, and if you want to explore more of them, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. There's always another door to the unknown waiting to be opened.